DP migrations. In order to upgrade to the latest versions of Data Protector, in this case 24.4 is the latest and greatest version, or any version of 23, 24 and above, you first need to be on a cell manager that's running 11.01 or above. As we could see here, it's Data Protector 1091. Go to the clients portion GUI. I really don't have many clients other than the cell manager. Obviously, for production environments, it's going to be different. Go to the devices and media portion GUI, just simple file library. And if I go to the restore portion GUI, I do have a backup just to demonstrate what's going to happen post migration. Okay, so let's bring up the steps. Okay, so we're going to start with migrate cell manager workflow for Windows system. Same applies for Linux. I'm going to be doing it on Windows. We'll start with OmniSV status. We know cell manager is up and running because I was capable of launching the GUI. Step number 2, 10.0 to 10.60 does not apply for us because I'm running 10.91. So I'll go to step number 3. In this case, I need to do an OmniDB util minus write DB of the current IDB. And what I'll do is at this point, I will create a directory in temp called Sandro and keep everything in there nice and neat. So I'll say Sandro. The directory already exists. Let's take a look what's in there. That's fine. Okay, so we'll go command line, and I'll see OmniDB util minus write DB /temp/Sandro. I'll hit return. Let's go over to the next step. The next step is going to be conditional. So we did number 3, conditional number 4, if you're using encryption for the backups. Not the case, so I go to step number 5. Step number 5 is OmniSV stop. Just copy the following client server. Now while it's stopping, we go to 6, copy the following client and server configuration folders to a temporary location. Server old and client old. Okay, so let's go into config. See, program data, omniback config. Grab these 2 directories. I'm going to copy them into Sandro. See, temp. Here we go. Paste. Rename this to old. Rename server to old. Sorry if my mouse is jumping around here for a second. Server _ old. Okay. The next step is to old DB80 to DB. So copy following DB folder to DB80 copy. Okay, so we will go into C, program data, omniback server, DB80 copy. We will go C temp, Sandro, and call it DB80 copy. Rename _ copy. At this point, the next step is going to be to uninstall Data Protector, the existing OmniBack folder in the following location so that you can access the content later. I'm not going to do this. This is a step just in case you need to revert back. In my specific situation, I know I will not be reverting back. So what I'm going to do at this point is going to do an add remove programs and uninstall Data Protector 1091. So we'll go to control panel, uninstall a program, select Data Protector, change. I'll say next, and I will do a remove, and I will permanently delete the configuration data. Okay, it appears to be finished, so we'll say next. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and see if there's anything manually that needs to be deleted. I think there's going to be an omniback directory. Nope, that's gone. See, program files is also gone. Program files, omniback, nothing. And just to reconfirm, program data, omniback is not there either. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start the installation of 11.01. So C temp, believe I already have it extracted. Yes, I do. Okay, so Windows x86-64 setup. Next, next. I understand. Cell manager. Um, I accept the terms and agreement and subscribe for the telemetry. Again, this is all information that you guys could go ahead and get through documentation on our portal. I'll say next. Oh, I fingered it. Let me just go ahead and put in the password. I double clicked on next. That's why we got that error. So next, again, I'm going with defaults here, so I'll just click on next. I'll say next. They want to enable secure data communication and audit logs. Again, this is information documentation that you could also get from our portal. For this test, I will not. Say next. Sure, want to proceed. Yes, next install. Okay, so let's go on mute and make this setup complete, and we'll take it from there. Okay, still going, reloading the application server. Go ahead and take a look at the next steps. So after Data Protector, install Data Protector, install the new version 11.01 on the same system, on the same path, which is important, obviously. Now, the next step is going to be, once this is installed, is readb. And then once we do the readb, we do an OmniSV stop, and we start copying the configuration files back. So let's give it a bit more time here. I'm hoping within the next 5 to 10 minutes, this is going to be done on the installation, and we could get to the, there we go, completed. Okay, so at this point, as we could see, the next step is omnidb util minus readdb. I copied it into a directory called temp sandro minus read db c:/temp/sandro. Say yes. Then the next step after that, oops, wrong place. It's going to be an OmniSV stop, and then we start copying the data back from the server old to the server, and so on and so forth. Okay, there we go. It's done. So at this point, by the way, I ended up hitting enter just in case, just to make sure that it was still running. And perhaps that's why you see 3 copies of the C colon here. Perhaps I hit done a couple of times here, and finally omnidb util did complete, and hence it returned 3 times. Okay, so let's get back to where we're at. So the next step would be, after the readdb, would be omnisv stop, right? So this is the readdb, so we're going to do an omnisv stop, omnisv stop. And the next step after the omnisv stop, rename directory server configuration folder of the current version to server new. So config server new. So while we're waiting for it to stop, there we go, it just stopped. We'll go to C, program data, omniback, config, rename to server new. I suppose we have to do the same for client, but let's just confirm. Server new, go to temporary location where you have saved copy from the old version, copy the server old back to the following original location and rename it that server. Okay, so we'll go to C, temp, Sandro. Server old copy, C, omniback, config, paste. Next step, rename it as server, rename the app server certificates, IDB and users folders in the following location by appending old to its name. So old to its name. So app server rename to old, certificates rename it to old, rename to old, IDB rename it to old, right? So, and it said app server certificate IDB and users to old, rename to old. Next, it says go to server new folder and your name before and copy the app server certificates IDB and users. Okay, so we're gonna go back here. Go to server new folder that you named before and copy the app server certificates IDB and users. Okay, so data, running back, config, server new. There we go. So go to server new folder that you named before and copy the app server certificate IDB use folders to the location config server. So we're gonna go server new. Take app server certificates, IDB and users, copy it into config server, paste. Rename DCBF messages, name DCBF appending to old to its name. Okay, so DCBF and messages. So let's go back here, running back, server, B80, DCBF, old, messages, name, old. I'll see why this mouse keeps to bounce around here, but old. The next step would be go to temporary and DBA copy and copy DCBF a message. Okay, so we're gonna go to C temp Sandro. Just type it in. DB80 copy, and I'll take the DCBF and messages and I'll say copy, and I'm gonna bring it into program data, omniback server, DB80, paste. The next step, rename the SS certificates, the SS config file. Again, all I had is one host, so I'm not going to have an SS config file, but we will have the SS certificates. So I'll go back here and I'll go to omniback. So once again, it says to new. So config clients SS certificates to new. Then it says to go pick it up from the old directory or the original directory. Again, I'll type in Sandro. I'll go into client old SS certificates, copy, and we'll bring it into program data, omniback, config, client, paste. That concludes this step, right? So start the services. So we'll do an OmniSV start. This step I'm going to be skipping. Again, this was due to the encryption, right? Which was discussed, I believe, here, number 4. Notice how it says conditional. I don't have encryption against the tape, so I'm going to be skipping that point. For the groups and user migration, since I basically had default users, I'd never created any user, was using the default administrator. I'm not going to be doing this part neither. Obviously, in a production environment, it's needed because you're probably going to have production users. So I'm going to be skipping the migrate users and migrate groups. I don't need to do this. And the reason to that is, once again, I had all default users. So the next steps are going to be to run these commands here. So we're going to wait for it to start. Okay, so started. So at this point, what we'll do is we'll do it sequentially, even though I could have easily just created a batch file for this. We'll do it sequentially. We do pass. Oops, wrong one. App pass. Let me go ahead and close this so I don't get confused. Encrypting the integration files. We're gonna do the encrypt the reporting groups. And we will do the encrypt array credentials. Okay. So the next step is an OmniDB check minus extended to make sure the database is fine. Should come back as okay. Next step is going to be show cell name, OmniDB util minus show score cell score name. At this point, host name. Notice how they match. Launch the GUI just to, that's the next step. So I'm going to say manager. Say okay. I go to the devices and media portion of the GUI. Notice this is the file library that I had before. I do have it now. When I say before in 1090x, now I have it in 11x. So same library was there before is there now. Notice how it's 1101. And if I go to the restore portion of GUI, I have some random files that I should be able to restore. So they were there in 1090, they're there now for 1101. Next step, post-migration. Let's do the check. So I already created the script called version.sql. So I'm going to say omnidb util minus run underscore script version.sql minus detail. 1091, we will do it against the JCE as well, minus detail. So one is 1091, one is 1070. So what does the documentation say? Right? If the highest entry that you noted down is equal to 11, then skip the following steps. If the highest entry in the release column is not equal to 1101, then perform the following steps to fix the version of the databases. Following template create idb fix.sql, jcx, jc underscore fix. Now, here, there's a problem in the documentation. First of all, there's a space here, which shouldn't be there. There's no semicolon here, and there's no semicolon here. So I'm gonna go over to my script itself, and I'm gonna go over to my C drive, and we're gonna bring up this script, idbfix.sql. In my case, I will say 10.91 going to 11.01, right? So the lowest version, we're not doing the JCE now. Now we're doing the database itself. Lowest version is 1091, and I'm going to bring it to 11.01, and I'm going to bring it to 11.01. Okay, so I'm going to say file, save, and now if we run script idb fix.sql, copy. Now, if we rerun the version, notice how it's not showing 1091 anymore, it's showing 11.01. That's for the IDB, but for the JCE, since we didn't do it yet, it's still going to be showing 1070. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm just going to, you could create separate scripts here, but at this point, I didn't. All intents and purposes, I just kept one script, and this time I'm going to say from 10.70 to 11.01 and select the version 11.01. The only difference is at this point, when I run the command, prefix, the only thing I'm gonna do is put a JCE at the end, minus JCE. And now, if I do it against the JCE, notice how it's not 1070 anymore, it's 1101. So basically, this concludes the session.